please look forward to that. Okay, before we start the meeting, I would like to tell you the rules. So as always, please be kind to one another because we want the Matthew Book Club to be a safe community for English learners and also book club and also book club community. And in this book club, we use English, but if you don't have perfect English, that's totally okay because we appreciate all of you and we're all still learning here. Yeah, and you can also snap a picture of us of this meeting to your Instagram and tag at Matthew Book Club to gain priority access for next month's meeting. Yeah, and there will be giveaways, so stay tuned until the end of the meeting. Okay, so I think that's it, the opening for me. Yeah, so the moderator today is Krisan. So I will give it over to Krisan.
Yeah, okay, Sherry, thank you. Hello, everyone. I think Sherry has greet you all here and welcome to our September meeting. And today's meeting is very special because our guest for today is Dr. Riyanti Yusuf. She is a psychiatrist. And before we start the session with her, I would like to share my screen to properly introduce her CV to all of you participants so that for those who hasn't seen the videos in the start of this meeting, you can know her more now. Let me share my screen. So as I have mentioned before, our special guest for this month's meeting is Dr. Riyanti Yusuf. She is a psychiatrist and currently she is the Secretary General of the Asian Federation of Psychiatric Associations. And here is her education history. The last she took a doctorate in public health and Universitas Indonesia, and you can see the rest here. And then currently she is a psychiatrist in Mind and Behavioral Clinic, Ciputra Medical Center, and she is also one of the lecturers in Faculty of Medicine UPN Veteran Jakarta. And she also has a political background here, as you can see. And here is her organizational experience. Just as I have mentioned before, she is a Secretary General of the Asian Federation of Psychiatric Associations. And besides being a psychiatrist, she also has other activity. She is a very productive author, and she has published 13 books, essays, scenarios, and the latest book that she published is the book that we are going to talk later in this meeting tonight. It's Jelajah Jiwa Hapus Stigma. It's a psychological autopsy of suicide case of two artists, two painters. And this book will be adapted into a film by Falcon Pictures. And here are her achievements, very impressive. You can see all of her achievements here. Yeah, and here's a blurb about the book Jelajah Jiwa Hapus Stigma. Yeah, it's as I have mentioned before, it's a psychological autopsy of two painters. Okay. So that's all for the CV. So before we start the Q&A section with Dr. Nova, I would like to properly introduce myself first. Hello, Dr. Nova. I am Krisan, one of the members from Matthew Book Club. And let's just start the Q&A right, Doc. Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay. We have several questions, some from our board members and some are from the participants. So our first question is, our theme today is how being a reader shapes our mental health. And we often hear that reading is a kind of therapy and it makes us feel better. From your perspective, how can it be being a reader help to shape our well-being?
Oh, okay. Hold on. I'm trying to change the cover, the virtual background. Okay, I will not change the virtual background. So, okay. So, sorry, I was trying to change the background, but didn't work out. Can you repeat the question again?
Yes. The first question is, from your perspective as a psychiatrist, how can being a reader help to shape our well-being?
Okay. First and foremost, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining this event tonight, this talk, this discussion. I really appreciate the establishment of the book club, because early this year, me and my niece were trying to establish a book club just between me and her. And we only came up with so many books, and we have downloaded so many on Kindle, but turn out we are still on book one because we're so busy. So this is I think this is a great opportunity. Been there, done that, trying to make a book club by myself, but just an intimate, consists of 2 people. Yeah, well, as in my own experience, at the beginning of this year, usually we were restless about what's going to happen this year, so the easiest thing to plan is the books that we're going to read. And somehow that is good for our well-being, because it feels like we have planned for this year. And if it turns out to be we're doing other things instead of reading, it's okay, as long as being productive as well. So it really depends on the purpose of you reading the book. When I was little, it was my way of exploring the world, because there was no internet. There was no way that I know what was going on with the world. And then came cable TV. And just because there was that cable TV, RCTI, and they had some shows, some movies, some series, and just by watching all of them, I became a writer in junior high school. So I wrote, so that means by reading and by limited source of audio visual stimulation, you will have this bigger curiosity. You imagine how the world is going to look like. So I just heard the word Acapulco, and then I wrote a short story called Love Story in Acapulco, and I was in junior high school. And then they were exposing islands and stuff like that. So I came up with a short story I wrote in English in junior high school. And it was A Week in Paradise Island. And by, I didn't know what they look like, it wasn't easy to get information. So I just imagined there will be cove or something like that, the beach will look like that. So that's the imagination. And from there, it was written in pencil and paper, with pencil and paper. So it was only read by very limited number of friends. And they were enjoying that. So they were giving the paper to the next person, and I was like, hey, where was my short story? I think it's her reading that, so that's very interesting. It was in junior high school. So it's a challenge actually for you to read and to use it to maintain your well-being, because there are so many distractions for you nowadays to stick to your book. You're using Kindle on your cell phone, for instance. So can you well imagine all the notifications?
Yes.
And you're like, no, but I was surprised to read one of the comment in Goodreads. I never usually read Goodreads. I never wanted to know what people thought about my book. So in Goodreads, one of the readers said, the pandemic is terrible, blah, blah, blah. And she had this book. She ordered this book, Jelajah Jiwa Hapus Stigma. It was about suicide. So the irony was that she said she never expected that having all this mixed feeling in the pandemic and reading a book about suicide can actually give her feeling of relaxation. And I was laughing when I read that. I was, what? Okay, that's good. So no wonder I think the first edition of this book had actually sold out. They cannot find it in Gramedia bookstores chain anymore. Even in the warehouse, yeah. Penerbit Buku Kompas, they cannot find it anymore. The only person who still have some of the books are me. So sometimes I have to. So who will? Do you still have? Can we still buy the book? And I'm like, I'm so reluctant to give away my books, because usually in the end I will only end up with one book because I don't have my own books. So this is what I'm saying. So it really depends on the purpose of reading the book, and you can get either what you expect or even what you not expect anymore. So just like that example on Goodreads, she just picked up this book about suicide. Well, she had a mixed feeling about the pandemic, and in the end she felt relaxed and she was able to finish the book. And I think it was amazing. It's also interesting if the reader is a bit of obsessive compulsive. It's so interesting. My book here somewhat had some editorial mistakes. So it was supposed to be checked by the copy editor and also final check, but somewhat there were mistakes. And one of the reader actually asked for my WhatsApp number through DM, and I gave it to her. I think it's her. And she sent it was a compilation of mistakes in this book. The misspelling, the what, and I was like, and I sent them to my publisher, and I was like, there's a love letter from one of the readers. They found a mistake. So apparently you can also find some enjoyment finding misspelling in a book. So that's what I'm saying. You can get many things from a book, and particularly a book about mental health.
So the same book can, when two different people read the same book, they can have a very different perspective from that same book, right?
Yeah, and benefit also. Different benefit.
Personally, because your book has just arrived last night, and I think I've finished about a quarter of the book. Your book is about suicide, but strangely, I feel comfortable reading it because I was in medical school, and reading your book makes me feel deja vu, like I'm back to my med school days, because I used to love being in a psychiatric classes back then in med school.
Wow, only one day and you've already reached page 70. Let me check.
Yes. So let's get on to the next question, Doc.
Okay. So,
Since we are talking about books, there's a question from Aninda, one of our participants, and she's also here. And her question is, what is your favorite book about mental health?
my favorite book about mental health. Strangely, I wasn't really looking for a book about mental health. I just, bump into this book. For instance, I went to St. Petersburg, Russia, and we were staying at this hotel. Apparently, every room in that hotel was being provided with a souvenir. And the souvenir is a book by Dostoevsky, Crime and Punishment. So I picked up the book and put it in my suitcase right away. I was like, oh my God, yes, I was so happy. I was in Russia. I got the book from Dostoevsky. And I thought it was one brilliant way to promote Russia, particularly the literature. So this book showed how the people struggle with the weather. It was actually, because I was there, I went on a train from Moscow and entering St. Petersburg. And then when we got out of the train, one of our friends was smoking, and turned out everybody was sharing cigarette. You cannot do that now, not during COVID, but at the time, it was suddenly, whoa, it's so much cooler than Moscow. So everybody on the wearing coat, but still needing that extra warmth. And I just get it, I just get it, how the weather can be very awful to somebody. That's why in psychiatry, we have what it's called seasonal affective disorder. It can occur in super cold cities or countries, because I remember even in April, the lake was still covered with snow in Russia. And it just goes to show that many aspects in life, environment, weather can actually influence someone's mental health. That's one. Two, Girl Interrupted. I didn't read the book, but it was a journal by Susanna Kaysen, who had mental illness, and she was portrayed by Winona Ryder, right? So I watched the movie again and again. It was tragic, it was haunting, but somewhat it was empathetic, shown by the nurse, Whoopi Goldberg there. And you can see the transition, the process of communication between the nurse and the patients there. You can also find Angelina Jolie, Brittany Murphy, the late Brittany Murphy in the movie. Another book I read was a memoir by a bipolar patient, Nadia Koskuner. I think she was from Bali, but I forgot her other, I think she was somewhat from Europe and Bali, I think. So she wrote High Tide, Low Tide. So that's how she explained about her bipolarity. High tide was when she's having that manic episode. Low tide was when she was having the depressive episode. I love the book. My Lovely Wife in the Psych Ward. It was a memoir written by the husband, Mark Luckett. And it took me a while to read that, but I never put it down. It means it's always in my book. It's always wherever I go. Even if I change room, I carry the book. Not necessarily reading that all the time, but I know I've got to finish that book. So finally, I finished the book. It was a beautiful memoir written by a husband, and it's just amazing to have such a loving husband like he is writing in that memoir. I hope it's not written by a ghostwriter. Um, and the latest book that I'm reading about mental health is Maybe You Should Talk to Someone by Lori Gottlieb. She's a psychotherapist and also author. And suddenly I was like, oh my God, I felt like I was having the same thing as her, trying to finish my book again, trying to finish the movie script, but at the same time, as a therapist, at the same time having problems as well. Who doesn't in the pandemic? So that book kind of speaks to you as a patient, but also as a psychotherapist. So yeah, those were some of my favorite books. Well, until now, I still look them up when I want to see the interesting parts or the dialogues, or just wanted to reminisce the feelings. Sometimes I go back to these books again.
Yeah, such an interesting choice of books. And the only book I'm familiar with is the last book. Maybe you should talk to someone. I agree with you. It's a very good book, and I don't know why. Somehow reading reading the talk between the psychotherapist and her patient just I don't know, makes me feel comfortable. And there's another question from our participant. It's a question from Michi and Dante. Since your book is talking about suicide, what can we do to help other people that we know who has a mental health issue? And what should we do when someone we know has suicidal thoughts?
Okay, thank you, Michi and Dante. There is no one solid reason as to why someone attempted suicide or eventually died by suicide. So if you want to prevent suicide, you need to educate yourself by understanding about 1, mental health, 2, mental illness or mental disorder, and 3, about suicide itself. Why? Because so many previous researches have shown that people died by suicide were mostly accompanied by mental disorder, such as what? Such as major depressive disorder, bipolar affective disorder, or drug abuse. So basically accompanied by mental disorder. So I've done this 2 major research on suicide. The first one was the psychological autopsy that Krisan was talking about, and it's now in the process of being adapted into streaming movie. It's for Click Film, Disney Hotstar Plus, and Netflix. So Falcon Pictures is waiting for my script so they could start producing the film. I have not finished writing the script. Okay, I'll explain the angle when I did the research for the book. Not the book. It was actually a thesis. It was actually a thesis for my psychiatry specialization program at the UI Medical School. So I had to use a theoretical concept. So I chose biopsychosocial aspect as the theoretical concept. It's not only specific for suicide, but mostly when we talk about mental health, then we try to take a look at it with biopsychosocial aspect, at least. Biologically, you might be familiar with the tragic family of the Hemingways. So in my book, there was an intermezzo in it, and the intermezzo was me following the footsteps of Ernest Hemingway to several cities in the world, Havana, Cuba, Idaho, but I only went to Boise. I didn't get to catch him where he died by suicide there. Morocco, and the other one is Paris, French. So yeah, that's like in Hemingway's family. It's not only Ernest Hemingway who died by suicide, but also 4 others. Psychological aspect. There are so many things here that you can explore. One, personality trait. Everybody has a personality trait as long as you are already 18 years old. 18 years old. I'm talking about personality trait, not personality disorder. They are totally different. The cluster is the same, but one is a trait, a character, a feature of you, but the other one is a disorder. Other than personality trait, how about your coping mechanism? Is it fight or flight? Is it you are a person who is having a problem-solving coping mechanism? Your temperament is also important to know. There are 4 of them: novelty seeking, harm avoidance, etc. Or Jung's theory on introversion and extroversion. And low self-esteem is very important in suicide. And of course, should there be any mental disorder, it's also important to know to prevent suicide. So biopsychological and social. Social, it can be related to education. It can be related to work, relationship. And then if we talk about social aspect, then we also talk about psychosocial stressor. For instance, in my second research for suicide, I found there were 16 psychosocial stressors that matter to the teenagers, particularly adolescents, the young adolescent. One, everybody excessively use or misuse social media. Physical or verbal bullying. What else? An idol or a friend or family member died by suicide. It can be a psychosocial stressor. And don't forget warning signs. Warning signs explicitly saying, I want to kill myself, like I'd rather die. I see no meaning in this world. I don't see a meaning of my life in this world. I would suggest not to see it as just an attention-seeking behavior, but it is better to be more alert about that statement rather than, it's attention-seeking, you know. Also, self-harm is different from suicide. Self-harm is to get the sensation, the pain when you hurt yourself. Sometimes it is used to substitute the feeling that you don't want to feel. For instance, my mom is having an affair, but I cannot talk to her. I respect her. She's still my mother, but it hurts me to watch her talk on the phone with another man, and you hurt yourself. So you don't feel what you feel or what you think about what is going on in the family. Why pay attention to self-harm? Because although it's not meant to kill oneself, somehow the data shown that the number 3 highest death in adolescent male is self-harm. So that means the self-harm can go bad, can go wrong, can end in death. And for female adolescent, it's the number 2 highest death caused by self-harm. The first one is maternal issues and also reproductive issues. You should also pay attention to trigger factor. So you have all those aspects. So if you read my book, then you can see it's so complicated, right? How in one's life, someone can have so many aspects and layers and things to deal with. But then all that trigger factor, a breakup, a divorce, having debts. In my book, there were 2 painters. One of them committed suicide a day after engagement. And the other one was when he withdrew from the city where he used to study, where he used to paint, and he came home. So he did it at home. Can you imagine that?
Yes.
So by knowing the theory, and of course, the public needs to be educated about all this. That's why, hence this book, instead of my thesis, it's a book. Hopefully we will know how to behave, towards friends, towards relatives who have suicidal ideation. It might be difficult at first. You might like, kayaknya gue salah. I think I said the wrong thing. It's okay. At least you're being empathetic. Empathetic is very important. What should one do if he or she has suicidal thought? Well, seek professional help. Well, most likely talk to the family or caregiver, or use application. The Ministry of Health has application. It's called Sehat Jiwa. You can do free consultation there as psychological first aid. So you don't really have to go to directly, but at least you can get that psychological first aid by downloading the right app, and has feature such as mental health consultation with either a psychologist or psychiatrist.
Oh, that's such an interesting fact. I just know that because I know right now there are lots of applications about mental health. We can consult with psychiatrists or a psychologist, but this is the first time I've heard of the one from the Ministry of Health, Sehat Jiwa.
And please
it's
complain
free.
if it's free, but please complain if it doesn't work. Don't just let it slide. No, you have to complain because it's part of the public service.
Okay, right. So if we ever heard someone saying, "I want to kill myself," so that if someone say that, and we know that, we should never consider it as a joke, right? How could we know if how could we differentiate if that someone saying that is joking or is he serious? Can you really differentiate that? No,
unless you know the story or you're being told, and sometimes they don't want to be investigated. They just want to be heard. They just need others to listen. When they trust, then they will open up. But if they don't trust, they will not open up to you. So instead of figuring out all the time, all the whiles, the person talks, and you're like, okay, is this real or not? Wait, what question? Oh no, Instead of being like that, then you're just being sincere and listen, and being there. You are present by you don't have to be present with your words. You're just present, just being there, or maybe you hold ice cream and you're like, want some, you know, like candy.
Yes.
Okay, you want some, you know, like, you know, just
Yeah.
divert the thought, but at the same time, that feeling, that person feels the touch, the effort, you know, that they matter.
Compassion.
Yes, that they matter, you know, like, hey, okay, I got ice cream.
Okay, and Doctor, you have talked a lot about your book, Jelajah Jiwa Hapus Stigma, and from your explanation, we already know now that it's about a psychological autopsy of two painters, right?
Yeah.
And my next question is, we really would like to know what inspired you to write that book. I have read it, but I know that lots of people here hasn't, so maybe you can tell us your inspiration.
Yeah. Although I was a medical doctor, I actually wanted to become a writer. So I was studying at Tarakanita High School and aiming for Stanford creative writings, but it didn't happen because my parents say, no, all your brother and sisters were already in the US, so you stay in Jakarta. And I'm like, what am I gonna do here? Okay, let's do medical school. It was actually not my first choice, no. But I challenged myself. If I did well in the first semester, I will continue. So it keeps going. It kept going on, the education, until I became a doctor, and I wrote my first novel. I published it independently first, and then Gramedia Pustaka Utama finally took the second edition of the book, published the second edition of my first book ever. It's like a long time ago, 2003. So I realized when I was studying psychiatry, I was actually to become a clinician, but then I became a politician. In the process, I was like, I listened to one of the lecturer. See, that's why it's important to listen to your lecturer. So I was listening to my lecturer, and she was like, explain about how, you know, artists like writer, painters, sculptors, are more prone to mental health issues, including suicide. So I was like, I'm also a writer at the time. So I still wrote books, you know, in between my study. And I was like, oh my God, okay, this is bad. This is bad. And I started to examine myself. So anyway, after that, I was like, okay, let's see about that, you know, like, that's how lecture's supposed to be. It's supposed to stimulate you. And I was like, okay, let's prove that. So I tried to find data and all that. And we don't even have one suicide registry, national suicide registry. We don't have that. Even BPJS doesn't accept any claim due to suicide.
Yes.
So it was actually out of my curiosity. Is it true that artists are more prone to that? And I cannot find the big data at the time. And then I had a friend who was a budayawan, and he told me, I asked him actually, because he had a lot of paintings. So I said, is there any painter who died by suicide? Yeah, I asked him that. And he was like, oh yeah, there was one. This painting, so he was showing me that painting. This painting, the painter already died by suicide. What? Wow, it's great. The painting was amazing. And I came up with a proposal to my academic supervisor, And I say, I was thinking about doing research about suicide. Is it possible? So he said, oh, but you don't have the big data. No, I cannot find that. So what do you have? So the professor asked, and I say, I've got one case. Can I do a case study on one case, a qualitative research? And he said, can you find another one? And I was like, what? Okay, so I asked again, and then somebody told me, oh, apparently there was another suicide by a painter also in Jogja. And I was like, okay, here we go. It was a very, you're lucky to have this book because the process, you had to ask around about 2 people you did not even know, to families, to their friends, to their former girlfriends, to their former fiance, to their father, to you had to ask around. And the worst part, I had decided by myself, okay, fine, I needed to see the location of the suicide. So I went to the house where one of the painters died by suicide. And then I went to Magelang, to the father's house, and the father was showing me, that's the room where he hung himself. And I was like, do you want to go in? No, here is fine. And I was just standing here, and the room was there. And I was like, no, I get the idea. It was like a very long alley to the room. And I was like, no, fine. No, I'm good. I'm just going to stand here. I get the idea. And I had to find their paintings. So I don't want this to be tebak-tebakan or something like that. So I tried to find a way. If you do qualitative research, then you do the triangulation process. So I was like, okay, who should be another expert? So I was so lucky. I only communicated through email with professor in Melbourne Uni. It was Professor Eugene Koh. I sent him the painting, and he said, okay, can you send the summary of all the findings that you felt significant? So I sent all the significant findings, and I made some kind of map, from where this person was okay having change of behavior until the suicide. So and then the professor asked me, okay, can you find their last painting? And I was like, okay, I'll try. So I only heard about one of the painting. It's called The Last Supper, but I never got to see that. The other one, however, I got to see the painting at the brother's house. No, brother's studio. Also di tengah kebun tebu, somewhere in Jogja. So I was there, and I was like, do you have his last painting? And he said, yeah, it's this one. Oh my God, it's entirely different from everything that he ever created. So it was, like I said, it was just like watching that movie, Girl Interrupted, or other movie. It's both haunting. I did not even let anyone do the transcription. So I really did the transcription all by myself. And it was, it gave me goosebumps. Listening again to the interviews that I did with everybody. So yeah, it was why I wanted to write about it, I got stimulated, by my lecturer who said artists are more prone, and I found difficulties to conduct the research, but somehow I found a way. When there's a will, there's a way.
There's a way.
So the research was done, and who knows, 13 years later, it was turned into a book and adapted into a movie. 13 years later, after I abandoned my research.
but I could imagine all the hard work you put in there, all the interviews, all the transcripts. Yes. Oh, well, well, it's already 10 to 9 p.m. So I'm afraid, Doctor, I have to close
does
our...
everybody else can hear Krisan?
Yeah. Hello, Doctor?
Yeah, also
yeah.
virgin suicide. Oh my God. Well, why can't I listen Krisan's voice? Virgin suicide. Yeah, I did. I did read the book and I did watch the movie. That's very haunting. 13 Reasons Why. That one was troublemaker because National Institute of Mental Health did research after 13 Reasons Why being aired. There was an increase of suicide attempt for about 28.9%.
Oh.
Yep. So movie can influence suicidal ideation. Krisan, I cannot hear you.
Yes.
Still.
Can you hear me now? Hello? Hello? Wait. What? Can you hear me now?
I don't know why.
I can hear
you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
You can hear me, Krisan.
Yes. Yes. Anyone? All the participants?
Yeah,
Yes.
Michelle says he can. I can. Ah, no. Whoa. So what's wrong?
I don't know.
Oh gosh.
Wait, I'll
No.
just try to mute and unmute again.
Oh my God.
Hello, Doc?
How did Krisan's voice disappeared?
Hello? But the participants can hear all of us.
Stop video. Does it help? No, it doesn't help.
Wait. Oh, it's the receiving.
Why? Okay. The small arrow beside the okay. And no.
Hello?
Speaker and microphone. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear myself.
Can you hear me, Doc?
Yeah.
Well, it's...
Yeah, I think while we resolve the problem.
Yes, Sherry.
Yes.
You can take over because Dr. Nova cannot hear my voice.
Oh, I have read all the suggestion. Yeah, I've tried that one.
Oh, yeah, just to remind everyone, if you want to get the special...
Yeah. No.
Yeah, if you want to get the special seat in next month's meeting, you
can I should leave and come back, yeah?
Story. Okay.
I'll try to leave and come back.
Oh yeah, okay.
Leave meeting.
Okay. Oh, there's an interesting comment from Vic actually. 13 Reasons Why is triggering. How about A Little Life? Actually, I didn't finish that because it's so damn slow. So I think it's like snail. Yeah. The pace is like snail. So yeah, but I think it's a great book. A lot of people say it's a great book.
Oh yeah. Doc, can you hear me?
Please work.
Hello?
It seems Dr. Nova cannot hear all of us. I don't know.
Or maybe you can chat the message in the...
Really? Yeah, I'm going to go to a breakout room. So
this never happened before.
Yeah, maybe after we close with Dr. Nova, then we can go to the breakout room.
Oh my God. In my system. Let's try.
I'll just try to message Dr. Nova.
Okay, what did I do? No. Okay, I'm having goosebumps now.
Yeah. Maybe we can take a picture first. After that, we can go to the breakout room.
Yes, I just messaged Dr. Nova. Hopefully she.
Okay,
can
let's
read
take.
mine.
No. Okay, let's take picture first. Do you want to take photo first? Actually, if you can hear my voice, you can just chat. Krisan chat
Yes.
to me. Oh, time is up. Okay.
Okay.
This never happens before. I'm having goosebumps.
Yes.
I'm running out of this room now.
Okay, maybe we can
Okay.
take the picture.
Oh, wait. Oh, before photo, you want me to
Yeah,
say
I asked Dr. Nova to
something?
say her last words
Okay.
or message.
Well,
Okay.
one very interesting thing is, do Indonesians read? Yeah, I mean, proportionately with the huge population, because I read from UNESCO, only 1 out of 1,000 Indonesians person read, we might not be able to expect too much at the time, what Indonesian people perceive about mental disorder from literature. But I believe that the more we talk about the literature itself, then I guess it will push people somewhat to read. And who knows, in their effort to read, they come across a book, a literature that highlight about mental disorder, because the idea of writing about mental disorder in a non-fiction popular book or even in literature, these efforts are very important to educate people about mental health, about mental disorder, and particularly about suicide prevention. So I guess that's what you do through METI Book Club tonight, to talk about mental health and a book about mental health.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Nova. It's so sad you cannot hear us.
This is very weird.
So maybe we can take a
Okay.
picture.
Yeah.
Sherry?
Yeah, photo.
Okay,
Yeah.
I will take the picture. Oh, who is it?
Sherry, can you
Picture
hear my
time.
voice
That's
now?
yeah,
right.
okay.
Yes.
Oh yeah, okay. Okay,
You
I
will
will take the
picture?
picture.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, there are 2 layers. Okay, first, okay. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, second one. 1, 2, 3. Okay, one more time.
Done?
One more time. No.
One more
yet.
time, Doc. Yeah, okay. Last one. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you all.
Okay. Whew.
Yeah, I think we have to chat the
Oh my
message.
God. This never happened. Goosebumps. I should, after this, I'm going to run upstairs.
Yeah. Okay, so everyone, we're going to have
Thank
the
you very
breakout room.
much, everybody. Thank you so much. Yes.
Okay. Okay, we're going to have the breakout room to discuss our
So
book.
I'm going to leave now, Krisan.
Yes.
I hope you guys have great session after I leave. And be careful. No, not be careful. I mean, have a good rest tonight. Have a great weekend and stay safe, stay sane. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Okay, can we divide the breakout room?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm also bringing a book that's green. That's so weird. I didn't pick it to be green, but yeah, it's green. Hey, don't want to give a spoiler about my book, so maybe later in the meeting. But here's the back of it if you know. Okay, wait, the breakout room is still being divided, I think.
Yeah, hold on, almost done.
Okay, there will be a giveaway also at the end. So yeah, wait until the end for the giveaway. Okay. Okay, wait a minute. Well, if you haven't read any non-fiction book, because some people ask us about it, if you can bring fiction, if you haven't read any non-fiction about mental health, that's okay. Okay, how is it, Chi?
Okay.
Okay.
Hang on. Okay. Hi, Nur, Fauzia, Khairunisa. Yeah, you can join your room, yeah?